Let's return to This Week in America. Here's your host, Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody, coast to coast, This Week in America. In the critically acclaimed sci-fi thriller Azimuthal by Gabriel Anthony Lopez, Geno and his friends embark on a journey inside the home solar system of Earth. Earth is currently experiencing seismic disruptions. Geno and his friends are currently based throughout the solar system, and Geno is at base with his father. Everything was good until the personnel on the base started to feel ill. During his training at the Planetary Defense for Geology and Geography, Geno and his friends learned how to navigate the Planetary Defense for Geology and Geography computer systems and have some fun. Geno, in turn, found out more about his father's life. Now, Geno must step into his shoes to potentially save Earth from a cataclysm. Gabriel Anthony Lopez qualified for the Olympics in 2000 and 2014 in swimming. Graduated from Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama in 2006 with a Bachelor's of Science in International Studies. After qualifying for the Olympics in 2000 and graduating college, Anthony was off to teach in South Korea as an English as a second language teacher. He then took an around-the-world trip, started to act in Houston, Texas as a side job. Olympic athlete, actor, teacher, published author, Gabriel Anthony Lopez, author of Azimuthal, is our guest on This Week in America. Anthony, welcome to the program. A pleasure to have you with us.
Pleasure to have you too. Thank you.
It is our pleasure. A lot to talk about here. A wonderful job with this book. What inspired you for the book Azimuthal? Where did this idea come from?
The idea actually came from when I was originally approached to publish a book. I managed to somehow take some classes at New Mexico State University in geographic information science and cartography, and that was at the beginning of 2020. And then as I got more accustomed to writing and storytelling, I decided to write a book that had to do with geology and geography. And I'd always had an interest in science, and I had some inspirational teachers and experiences, and it all just kind of started to evolve into a story.
And a great story it is. The book is receiving rave reviews. The book is on Anthony's website. His website is anthonylbooks.com. Also find a great writersmedia.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, usual places. We'll have it on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Talk about the main characters you've developed for the book Azimuthal. Who are some of the characters?
There's Geno, Ignacio, and Kokuro are the main characters. And Geno's the main character, and he has his father, Krev. And just like the synopsis says, they're on a space station orbiting Earth, and there's Geno and his friends. And as news reaches them of what's happening on Earth, their relationship evolves, and the journey of Geno evolves how he became stronger as a person as a result of all the events at the beginning of the book. And, so.
Well, yeah, and it moves so rapidly. Talk about writing this book. How long did it take you to write Azimuthal?
It took me about 3 months to write. And about 2 months to publish it. So to get everything squared away with it.
Yeah, and now it's out there, and it's doing quite well. The book, I'm going to spell it for you. Azimuthal is Azimuthal. Gabriel Anthony Lopez, the author and our guest on the program. His website is anthonylbooks.com. The book actually comes in 3 formats, and we will talk about that as well. Anthony, talk a little bit about the story in writing this, because it's a book you literally can't put down. Sometimes you read a book and I can take a break here. I'm not going to miss anything. If you put it down, you're going to miss something. It's a lightning pace. Talk about the writing style that you have of moving the story along, because it's a pleasure to read.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 3 of the books have been reviewed, and when I first submitted the book to be published and reviewed, my first time, second, I guess technically maybe second time author, but first time author, all together in general. But I wasn't expecting, but it was pretty exciting to get the review. the way I somehow managed and how the story evolved was that, like they said, lightning pace, kind of more like it was in between like developing from a book to a script, or it's like more of a book to movie kind of book. A book that's meant more
Yes.
like for a movie that the pace is so good and it's so entertaining.
It's so vividly written, and you've mentioned the pace. Is there any talk of making this into to a movie?
Actually, I'm talking to the first, I think we'll get to that in this interview. My first book, The Last of the Charybdis, was up for, to be made into movie. I think it's up to the publisher and, my agents, like, to see if it will be up for a movie. But as far as the review, they were saying like, why hasn't it been made into a movie yet? So yeah, I've had several offers about some of my books being made into a movie.
You have this way of writing that jumps off the page. It's very visual. It captures the reader's attention. We can see the story play out as we're reading. This book is Azimuthal. The author is our guest, Gabriel Anthony Lopez. His website, anthonylbooks.com. We'll talk about his other books here as we go through the conversation. All those you'll find on his website. You can order books there as well, and his books, of course, available at the usual places. I mentioned you've got 3 versions of this book. You've got English, Spanish, and a bilingual edition. Talk about the thinking of making it available in those 3 formats.
Yeah, I got inspired about releasing the books in Spanish and the bilingual. I'm from a Mexican background, and I was interested in releasing it to a Spanish-speaking and a Spanish-English audience. And I'm just from a way to connect with the community more, that they have access to books,
Yes.
access more to education to connect with them. So I managed to do that. And also, it'd be interesting to see how that goes into the movie industry, a movie in Spanish or have it in English and Spanish. The publisher was so excited to publish it in Spanish and English.
And I certainly can understand that. And available in all formats, of course, on Anthony's website. You'll find it as well at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, GreatWritersMedia.com, all of those places. And link on directly to Anthony's website by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. This is an entertaining story. It moves along, as they said, at a lightning pace. Talk about the themes, the morals of this, because there's some substance to the story too, as well as just the sci-fi action.
Yes, the moral of the story, it's more of a coming of, like the genre, the more specific genres, the coming of age story, and the moral of the story is how friendship can conquer any hardship. And as the beginning of the book is a pretty big, exposition, a pretty big what's going on, which caught the publisher's attention and everything. But as the story develops, it goes into how Kuro gets stronger as a person and his friends as well, and goes through all this hardship in the book.
When you started out writing, I want to talk a little bit about the writing process. Did you have these characters clearly defined in your mind, and the storyboard, the outline where you knew where the story was going to go, or did it sort of the characters and the story develop as you were in the writing process?
Actually, the publisher is pretty thorough. Like you have to, you submit a outline and you submit the whole draft. So when I was writing, when I was the first approach for a book, it's, I guess some authors, they develop the characters to write, but I clearly, I take down notes, and, I took writing classes in college. Like my college was specifically focused on writing. So it's just, I did the outline and wove them into as the publisher wanted. Not the publisher wanted, but I wove them into the story. And
it works for you doing it that way. That's interesting. How much fun was it creating these characters and creating this world that unfolds in the book Azimuthal? How much fun was this, creating this fiction?
Well, yeah, when I first approached writing, it's like really, I mean, once you get into writing, it's really entertaining and fun.
Yes.
And once you get into, I guess, a specific topic like world building, imagining and building your world, that's really fun. And even though it's a challenge, it's fun to build this entire world that, how technical and how the history behind writing and stuff and how that all evolved, how that involves you. It's just all really fascinating and entertaining.
And you've done a wonderful
just
job.
As a writer in itself.
Yeah, in bringing this world to life, you can see that as you're reading the book as Azimuthal. That's Azimuthal. If you're Googling, you'll find the book available wherever books are sold. I'll direct you to Anthony's website, which is anthonylbooks.com. Books is plural. We mentioned that before. What are some of the other books that you've written?
Some of the other books I've written was The Last Son of Charybdis and While Half the World is Sleeping and Signs of the Enigma.
And let's talk about these. The Last Son. Why? What was the inspiration for writing that book?
The inspiration was at the very beginning, I was approached to if I wanted to publish a book. And that was at the beginning of the COVID pandemic when we had nothing but else to do. There was the lockdown and everything. And so that took a while actually to write because it was my first one. So it took about 4 or 5 months. And it's a coming of age story. And it was just interesting to get, I never actually had put what I learned in high school and college to use yet with creative writing. And I was the editor-in-chief of my high school newspaper. So I wasn't putting those skills to use, but with this opportunity I did, and the story just evolved. And it was, again, I had a great time writing the story, and the publisher had a great time hearing about the book. So just with a little bit of research in my imagination, again, that was my first try. It was like the first hole in one you get with golf course. I got published. I got a movie offer for my first book. So
that is just amazing and a testament to the talent that Anthony has. Gabriel Anthony Lopez. It's interesting, this background that you've had in writing. When did you become interested in writing and decide that, I've got some talent here. I enjoy doing this and I'm good at it? When did that happen?
Specifically in high school, as for electives, I took journalism and news. I was a newspaper. And as far as, before then, I was approached by some of the teachers, I was good, at storytelling, but I had other, I was a student at Excel that I was approached by NASA. So I have a whole other story with,
wow,
just excelling in general. So, it's just, mostly it took off in high school with big storytelling. And I happened to go to a college that you had to take courses that had to fulfill a writing requirement. So,
I love a good coming of age story, even though I came of age multiple decades ago. It's still interesting and it's still fascinating to watch in the movies and to read in the books. And you've done that so well in your books. Now, the other book you mentioned, While Half the World is Sleeping. Talk about the inspiration for that.
Yeah, the inspiration for that was to tell a futuristic love story. And that was, again, it was, I guess in reference, was there any time in my writing that I spontaneously wrote a book? I guess this book was one that I spontaneously wrote it. But again, I've had an interview with this book, and the interviewee really liked the book. And she said that was, for some reason, my writing, she was like, well, this also sounds like a movie, But so that was a compliment too. So it's just, that was another fun, spontaneous book to write.
A couple more movies here. You can be a streaming channel the way things are going. You've got the material there to do that. And again, these books available at Anthony's website. We'll give you that information as we go on here. And then the other, Science of an Enigma. Talk about that again. The inspiration behind that.
The inspiration was it's a sequel to The Last Son of Charybdis, and it's gotten so the universe of The Last Son of Charybdis kind of evolved more. And with the review, it got, the comment was it's more equivalent to the universe of Star Wars, and some of the villain specifically. So that was another fun that I got to develop my world building capabilities more. And the first review of Last Uncrypted specifically, they were very interested in the ancient lore, prophecies, and stuff, the richness of the culture being exposed in the first book and more in the second book. So,
with us on the program, Gabriel Anthony Lopez. We talked about While Half the World is Sleeping, and I didn't ask about the plot line of that. It's very intriguing. It's a great storyline you've got. Tell us about that for While Half the World is Sleeping.
The great thing about While Half the World is Sleeping was that it's a love story about a time in a futuristic part of Earth that deals with war and corporate intrigue and how love stands to conquer all, and how they go up against, the debacle of, falling in love and, leading Earth with all these corporations when, there's war going on, and how the moral dilemma, how you represent, society and corporations while not getting involved in, unethical behaviors. So
you've got some excellent books out there, as Anthony is describing. The first one we're talking about, the main focus is Azimuthal, and we'll give you all the information on that as we go. But the other ones you'll find online as well. If you're doing Amazon, just click on the author's name and other books will come up, and you'll find them on Anthony's website, anthonylbooks.com, and of course, link on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. What are you working on now? What's the next book that's coming out?
Actually, the next book I've been working on, the publisher has dubbed it the Charybdis series. So there's about 3 or 4 books in the making, and I managed to apply to a master's program in creative writing, and just for marketing purposes and just to be a more solid writer to go in that direction. So I've managed to take writing a bit more seriously, and I've had time on my hands, and I've developed a list of books I'd like to write, but the Charybdis series was the original book that I started out with that had the whole series and multiple books with it.
Yeah, that was the hole-in-one that got all this started for Anthony, and what an amazing journey that he's on with all of these books. What's this like, pursuing this now in your life? I mean, you've been influenced with writing, and now you've got a writing career that's taking off. How much fun is this for you to follow one of your dreams, and that's being a published author?
Yes, it's fun, and helps me be spontaneous and practice skills that I was taught, and I finally found my, I guess, the niche or whatever the powers that be may want
Yes.
my niche in writing. But on the positive side, I did some research and asked my publisher, and it exposes me to like the Ivy League, like Harvard, Columbia, and stuff like that. Some writers don't get published until they're 40, or from the information out there from like Google, I started fairly early, and it's opened me up to a different opportunities with the schools up there too. And it's a good thing. It only goes so far before you don't necessarily have to have the degree, but it's good to expose yourself to that mindset.
Well, you've been doing this throughout your career, sort of opening yourself up to all these different worlds. Let's focus on the Olympics, qualifying for a couple of Olympic swimming teams. What was that like for you, and how did that shape who you are today?
It shaped me in a big way. I started swimming when I was 3, and I'd always been in swimming, and I was one of their better swimmers and the MVP in junior high. And finally, when I was 15, I managed to qualify for Olympic trials. And it was a big moment, like the first moment when you're 15 and,
Wow.
you're exposed to this different, world about fame and the possibilities and stuff like that. So, yeah. And the story behind that is I was thrilled, to be picked, but, I decided to pick, academics and other pursuits, other than swimming at the time. And then, eventually, I went to college and worked a bit and traveled. And then I came back to swimming. And again, I qualified for the Olympic trials and stuff. And, it's an amazing thing to put on your resume and, for marketing purposes. And,
Yes.
it's just, it was so much part of my life that,
Well, it's a real door opener, isn't it? It's like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So it sets you apart from all of the others, and the fact that you've accomplished so much at a young age. And I love the off to South Korea, teaching English over there as a second language. What was that experience like? Would be a dream for many people to go expose, English in another country like that. What was that like as a learning experience for you, the teacher?
Yes, coming from a Mexican background, I've exposed somewhat to different cultures and stuff like that, but
Yes.
I haven't been, immersed into a different culture, like completely. And I got a degree in international studies, and it was just a time to practice and a time to figure out, if that was really for me. All in all, it was just amazing and experience, just, be, not to be hunkered down with anything, just be exposed to a different culture. So.
Well, what a life story. What a life that you've led and continuing to be a success with the published books that we've talked about, specifically Azimuthal, the new book, and that's spelled Azimuthal. It's in 3 different versions, translated into English, Spanish, and there's a bilingual edition as well. Anthony's website, very simple, anthonylbooks.com. You'll also find this book and all of his other books at greatwritersmedia.com, amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, all of those. Keep up to date on the books that he's working on and be published soon, and to see when these will become movies, and all of this information on his website, anthonylbooks.com. Anthony, a pleasure having you on the program. Congratulations on the successes that you've had. Look forward to having you back to talk more with you. Thank you for spending some time with us on the program.
All right. Thank you very much.
It's been our pleasure. Gabriel Anthony Lopez. This book is Azimuthal. The book available at all the places books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. His website is anthonylbooks.com. All of this, of course, on our website. Our website is thisweekinamerica.us, and we continue on today's program right after these messages.
This Week in America is online. You can visit our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Scott Pinkerton, Associate Producer of This Week in America. Jay Anderson, Segment Producer. Ben Watson, Webmaster. Otto Bechet, Director of Engineering and TV Production. This Week in America produced and is a trademark of Blue Funk Broadcasting, LLC. For information on all of our guests and to listen to this week's show, our website again at thisweekinamerica.us. And I'm Sean Bratton, Executive Producer of This Week in America.